Okay, so this is your practice test. I wanted to go ahead and give you a copy of what the test may look like so you won't be so anxious. You'd know what to expect for this first test. So, step by step, here you've got two groupings. You've got two polynomials and it's asking you to add them together. So when you add, when it's a plus sign in between the parentheses, you just basically are adding like terms. So put all the like terms together. So 9n squared would be added to the 5n squared. The 7n to the 5th would be added to the 2n to the 5th, and 9n would be added to the 9n. So you can see that the terms are lined up and you're just adding them together. What is it? 9n squared is positive. So we end up with 9n to the 5th plus 18n plus 14n squared. But I don't want you to leave it like this because it's not in standard form. We need to get accustomed to writing our solutions in standard form, because from here on out it's much easier to solve equations if you start in standard form. So for the final answer, put it in decreasing exponent order. So that would be standard form. Okay. The other kind are when the polynomials are separated by a minus sign. Actually, you're just distributing that negative through there, or subtraction property tells us just add the opposites of everything after that minus sign. So you end up, when you drop your parentheses, we're going to add like terms again, except we'll end up with a minus 5. And minus times a minus, or we take the opposite of this negative, and it would be a plus 8x cubed minus 4x to the 4th minus 5x squared. And we just add up like terms again. 8 and 5x squared would be negative 13. A minus 2x to the 4th minus 9 and 10x cubed. But again, this is not standard form. So we want to put it in order from decreasing exponents. 2x to the 4th plus 10x cubed minus 13x squared minus 9. So that would be our final answer there. Now the difference in 1 and 2 and these down here, find the product. You find a product with multiplication. So basically it's distributive property. 4x times x is 4x squared, and 4x times 7 is positive 28x. So we've distributed that through there. Now distribute the negative 3. Negative 3 times x and negative 3 times 7. And now you just add like terms. So your final answer, 4x squared plus 25x minus 21. Same thing, FOIL it out or distribute, same thing. You add your exponents, remember, outside terms, inside terms, and last. So our final answer is negative 3x squared minus 21x minus 36. Now this little thing, this is 2 terms and 3 terms. So I'll just tell you, I'm learning. Y'all are teaching me something. I like that box method on these big ones. And then I can keep my exponents straight. So if I organize it in this box, I'm learning to really like that, just for the big ones. But you can do them, remember, for these also. Do the box. And then if I multiply 49 times 7, then I have 343y cubed. This helps me keep my exponents straight. I am figuring out. And then 35 times 7, let's see, that's a 5, 21, that's 245. Y times y is y squared. And then 25 times 7, y. So I've taken care of distributing this 7 all the way through, basically. Now the -5 through here. Negative 245y squared. That's right. And then we have a negative 175y. And -5 times 25 is negative 125. So I hope you can see how the square holds the product of these two numbers. This square is these terms, and this square holds the product of these terms, and so forth. So now we add like terms. This is the only one. That's y cubed. Minus 245y squared and plus, those zero out. Minus 175y plus 175 zero out. And you have a minus 125 left. Okay. I like that a lot. Okay. Now factor completely. So we have to kind of talk to ourselves. We've got two terms and a plus sign. Always check for a GCF, right? Because a lot of times that helps you simplify it, and then maybe you can see the next step if you don't know what to do right away. Here we've got 5 and 15, and both of them have at least one of the x's. So I can pull out a 5x. Make sure you add the 5x. Well, I shouldn't say add, but make sure you include it as part of your answer. That's really an easy, careless error to make. Let's divide out the 5x. 3 minus 1 would be x squared. 5 into 15 goes 3 times, and the x's divide out. X squared plus 3 cannot be factored anymore. So we're done with that. X squared plus 4. So remember we talked in class, when you have two terms, look for a GCF, which it doesn't have any. These are two perfect squares, but it's not the difference of two perfect squares. And we don't have a rule for the sum of two perfect squares. So you can put prime, cannot factor. You could rewrite it and put a box around it if you want to. Anything to let me know that you know there's nothing else you can do to it. If you just skip it and don't write anything, then I'm going to think you just skipped it because you didn't know. So put something down. Trinomial. There's no GCF. So typically trinomials factor into two binomials. You know x times x is x squared. Then we look at this number. A negative C value or magic number or big number tells you there's a positive times a negative. We don't know which is which. We just know our signs are different. Then we look at this sign, and it tells me that the larger factor is by the minus sign. So 1 times negative 20 equal negative 20, or 2 times negative 10, or 4 times negative 5. So I need the pair of factors that add together to equal minus 1. And that's going to be positive 4 and minus 5. To check it, you can just FOIL it back out and make sure you have the correct answer. Okay, I hope it's so far so good. That some issues are enlightening. Same thing here. There is no GCF. We're going to try to factor it into two binomials if it can be factored. X times x is x squared, and so now we're looking at a positive 15. Factors of 15. The signs are both the same. So now we look at this one to discover that they're both positive. So we don't have to worry about the larger factor going a particular place. 1 times 15, 3 times 5, and the pair will add up to be positive 8. That's our only choice. There's only going to be one correct answer. It's either right or wrong. So try to reason it out. Remember everything that we look at. Okay, trinomial again. The difference, there's no GCF. Again, the difference in this one and this one, you have a number other than 1 right there. If you see a number as your coefficient, then it's not 1. So you're going to use slide and divide. 5 times 12 takes us to an easy one with 60 as the magic number. So now we're looking for factors of 60. This tells me they're both the same. This tells me they're both negative. So I have 60, and they have to add together to be negative 17. 2 times 30 and 3 times 20. 4 times 15. 5 times 12. And 6 times 10. And there's only one set that add up to be negative 17. And it would be 5 and 12. But they both have to be negative. Now, don't forget it is called slide and divide. So we don't want to miss the divide step. Take your A, divide both binomials. But don't forget to reduce, y'all. You have to divide and you have to reduce. X minus 1, that would be part of our final answer. 12 over 5 does not reduce. So the bottom number goes in front of the x. 5x minus 12. Check it if you're not sure. 5x squared minus 12x minus 5x would be minus 17x. And those two, the product is positive 12. Okay. So as long as we check it, we're good to go. 9, negative 6, negative 8. I see no GCF. So again, I'm going to need to slide and divide. That's minus 72. And take a calculator and make sure you get the correct product, because if you make a mistake there, there's nothing much you can do. It's just going to be gone. Or unfactorable. It'll just cause problems if you aren't sure that you do your multiplication step correctly. So use that calculator. That's what it's for that kind of stuff. Factors of a negative 72. So we have a different signs. The larger one is going to be negative. Well, I just kind of remember in class that 12 times 6 is 72. And I know a negative 12 plus positive 6 is a negative 6. So that works, actually. Divide your 9 back out, and both of these can reduce. 3 goes into both of those, so that would leave 2/3. And 3 goes into both of these. So my final answer would be 3z minus 4. And 3z plus 2. And again, remember the grouping, you could reverse them. That's okay. But you can't have, well, in this case, it wouldn't matter. But up here, you have to have the 12 and the 1 in the correct place. But both of these are 3z, so it really doesn't matter where the plus 2 goes. You have subtraction and two perfect squares. There is no GCF. So you just have to remember square root minus square root times square root plus square root. If that's possible. It's not always possible, but here it is because they're both two perfect squares. Number 13, GCF. Yes, it is. And can we factor what's in parentheses? In this particular case, we can. Square root minus square root and square root plus square root. So remember, this looks like your test. Different problems though. And you also have your study guide, which has a whole nother set of problems. So for your first test, really take advantage of all these resources and make an A. We need an A, and then maybe that'll calm your anxieties, get you started on the right foot. And I will see you Wednesday and Tuesday for your test. Have a good weekend.